I'm Valora Vidan with KelownaNow.com, and we're here with Ian Cauble, who is here at Ex Nihilo Winery. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you.
How are you enjoying the Okanagan, your whole 20 minutes here so far?
You know, it's perfect temperature. It's around 90 degrees. I don't know how you translate that. I think it's, 28 degrees Celsius? I don't know. Cold glass of Pinot Gris from this beautiful vineyard I'm looking at. You know, life's pretty good.
So you are one of only, I believe it's 200 or 201 people to have ever passed the Master Sommelier exam. What was that moment like?
It was surreal. I mean, I've spent, tens of thousands of hours, focused on the whole world, and you hope that one day it all comes together to pass it. But it took me, 3 different attempts to pass the exam, and each one was difficult in itself. And the failure is very difficult, but you learn a lot from it. And finally, when you do achieve your dream, something that you've looked forward to for 10 years, it's surreal. It really didn't hit me till the next morning. I woke up kind of in tears, hungover the next day. But right when it happened, I was just kind of floating on a cloud for all day, and had a lot of really good wine. And then woke up the next morning, just realized what I had achieved and how special it was. And I still look back and I'm glad I don't have to take the exam again, because it's intense emotionally and mentally. Everything about the test takes everything in your life, and you typically neglect everything else, and you have to focus on this exam. So I'm glad it's done.
When did you first realize that being a sommelier could be a career, and how did that inform your decisions moving forward?
Well, I went to Chile on a wine trip when I went to Sonoma State University, and basically was in these vineyards on the coast of Chile eating local grilled squid and Sauvignon Blanc, and I was like, this is nice, And then I graduated and I got a job offer in Portugal working for $2 an hour in the Douro Valley. Ended up traveling for the next year and a half through Europe and North Africa and India, and I got back and I was looking for a job, doing something. My dad connected me with a local wine shop and one of his friends, and they said they'd hire me, and I was like, okay, I'll work at a wine shop. And I found out what a sommelier was, and I just started studying, and I realized that I could spend my life, sharing my passion with people, and working in a restaurant or educating. And I think it's one of the best careers you could have, because you eat and drink most of the time, and you share your passion of food and beverage, which is, I think, one of the great gifts we have in this life. So
what is the best wine that you've ever had?
It's really hard. 1985 Montrachet, which is a vineyard in Burgundy, from Domaine Ramonet, is very memorable. It's 100% Chardonnay. Ironically, I love Pinot Noir, I love Chardonnay, I love Riesling. Some of the other great wines, 1953 La Romanée, which is a Grand Cru 100% Pinot Noir from France, from Domaine Leroy. Very expensive. I can't afford it myself, but I'll drink it if somebody else is paying the check.
Speaking of expensive, I'm guessing that in order to study for these exams, to be one of the best in your industry, there must be a lot of money that comes along with that, a lot of expenditures on your part, even in terms of learning the different wines and tasting the different wines, therefore buying them. Can you talk a little bit about the cost and expense that's gone into this?
Yeah, luckily there's a lot of tastings, in California, where I lived in San Francisco and trained. There's a lot of consumer tastings where every week there might be a Spanish tasting, an Italian tasting, a Napa tasting, an Argentine tasting. So you get to taste and kind of have a scope and an understanding of what wines from certain regions taste like. And then you'll have tasting groups where you'll spend approximately $40 to $50 a week on wines. Everyone brings 2 wines. So, that's $200 a month right there, plus, dining out and experiencing food and wine pairing, what goes well, what doesn't. And then also just buying wines to drink it and understand producers in the world. You're probably spending, I was on average, $500 or $600 a month on food and wine, just training for the exam. So you're, I would say $5,000 to $10,000 a year if you're pretty serious. If you really want to spend a lot of money, and also your time and traveling to regions. If you want to go visit France, you have to spend, it's $1,000 for round trip airfare plus the rental cars. To learn these regions, it's very difficult unless you actually go to the area, or else it's just another piece of paper with names on it, and you don't truly have a 3-dimensional understanding of what goes on in a region. I mean, I've, the subregions of Okanagan Valley are on a flashcard, right? But I have no idea, where they are or how they're different. And now that I'm here in Kelowna, and I'll be able to spend the next 3 days traveling to the different regions in Osuyos and Naramata, and black sage, like all the stuff that I've remembered, but you don't necessarily have an understanding. So you have to really travel to these areas, and I think that's a very expensive part to truly understanding, because you can remember information, but it doesn't mean you really understand.
So the reason why you're here is for the Okanagan Food, Wine, Film Festival, and the movie that you were a part of, the documentary that you were a part of, Somm, is going to be shown on Friday evening at the Rotary Centre for the Arts. How do you feel about the way that you were portrayed in the film? Do you feel like it came out across properly?
Yeah, I mean, I was portrayed very intensely. I mean, it's interesting how your life can be edited to look like that, but it was very serious. I was working 60 hours a week and studying 40 hours a week. So I was pretty deep. And looking back on my life and my energy at that time, I was very high strung, but that was for about 2 weeks of the 3 years I was studying that specific, 2 weeks before I was, not sleeping much, and I was, really putting a lot forth. So, and they captured, I think, of the most intense experiences that I went through with wine were captured on film, which is rare because most people get to forget about them, it's just in your mind. But, Jason Wise captured on film, and it's a great movie. I just, I typically don't like to relive very intense experiences, very stressful times of, watching myself fail the second time on film is pretty tough to watch, because it's emotional. You put a lot of time and energy into passing the exam, and when you don't, it's pretty hard. Yeah, that's for sure.
What is your favorite part of being a sommelier, and what is your advice for people who might be interested in following your career path?
My favorite part of being a sommelier is sharing my passion with people, seeing a table of 4 or 6 and having a great dining experience and sharing stuff that they would never taste, and that's much less expensive than they probably would have spent on wines they're familiar with, and just bringing different flavors to people and educating them about, branching out from what they're comfortable with. If they drink Napa Valley Cabernet every day at home, it's like having the same CD in your car for years, I think. We've all done it, and it's kind of nice when somebody gives you something new, and it kind of just changes the energy in your life a little bit. And I think that's what's so important in wine, and there's thousands of different tastes and flavors and people and stories that need to be shared, and that's the funner part.